Hi, and welcome back to Diversified Members Credit Union 3 and Out with Chris Spielman. I'm Mike O'Hara. And Chris, the Detroit Lions have said goodbye to their bye week. They're sitting there at 3 and 3. We're going to look ahead to the NFC North race and where the Lions fit right now. But when you look back, are you disappointed where the Lions stand at break even, or do you think they're in pretty good position going forward, given the injuries, given everything else?
I think they're in good position. They lost that tough one to the Falcons, which was a hard one to get over, but they come back and they won a good game against the Vikings on the road against a team that was hot at the time. They're 3 and 3, and I stated all along, Mike. I think if you get through these first 8 games at 5 and 3, then their schedule, at least on paper, lightens up for the second half of the season.
Well, you never know. They've taken some hits in their one-loss record with 2 straight losses, and obviously some hits in the roster with injuries. How hard is it to overcome that at this point of the season? And is 1 week off really enough to get healthy?
For some guys, I think it's going to help Matthew Stafford, who's your number one concern as far as health. And here's what I know about injuries in the NFL. You can get by with backups for 3 games, but when you're playing with backups for a season, that'll end up catching up to you.
And do you see a strength that the Lions can rely on, and a major weakness that they might have to overcome in the next, either for the rest of the last 10 games or just immediately?
I think for the most part, take away that New Orleans game, I thought defense is playing pretty well. They've been relying and counting on getting turnovers, and they were doing a good job of that, something that was lacking last year. And another thing that you can always help yourself with, which they somehow still cannot get the consistency that they need, is to run the ball. I know we say it every week, but it's just not been there. I think their best rushing game, at least Amir Abdullah's best game that I saw him play this year, was against Minnesota. If they can establish some type of consistency like they did against Minnesota, they're going to win a lot of ball games.
Well, you mentioned the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to look at the NFC North going forward. The Lions already have that win, and it's a good way to start if you're going to win the division, is to win in the division. But the Vikings are sitting at 5 and 2, and just looking at them, they are a team led by defense, and it is a great defense the way it's set up right now. How do they look? Do they look to you right now like the class of the NFC North?
Well, I think their defense keeps them in it, and as long as Case Keenum doesn't turn the ball over, I know he had an interception yesterday, and they can establish some type of running game because they lost. Look, they lost their starting quarterback, they lost their starting running back, their top wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, did not play yesterday, but they don't turn the ball over, and they can establish some type of running game, and they play a field position game. So the Vikings right now, because of the injury to Aaron Rodgers, are the team to beat in the North. But I think the Packers are done. The Bears don't have enough offensively. And so it's going to come down to the Lions and Packers, whoever's going to be the NFC North champion.
Wait a minute. The Packers done at 4 and
Lions and
3?
Vikings, excuse me.
Packers done at 4 and 3, Chris. They've won the division 5 times in the last 6 years. Is Aaron Rodgers that important?
Oh, they're yes. they're, he's, you know that. I mean, what are you asking? Is that a rhetorical question or what? You know the answer. You think that the Packers, without Aaron Rodgers, can compete for the NFC North? Do
Chris,
you really think that?
This is almost as fun as it was interviewing you after a loss in the locker room.
Well, I'm correcting you as usual. Yes, it is.
No, I would agree with that. But the Lions play them on Monday night in the second game back. It would seem to me that that is a game that if the Detroit Lions are to contend in the division, they have to find a way to put that one away.
Yeah, they do. And again, it's a good thing for the Lions that they don't have Aaron Rodgers. And look, I mean, 3 and 3 is not ideal. I thought very possible, right? 4 and 2 to get that win against Atlanta. They were simply outplayed in New Orleans, to be honest with you. We all know that. That was just one of those games. But they'll make those corrections. Again, as a player, I always used to think, Mike, okay, if we got the 5 and 3 at the break and we're in control of our own destiny at the break, we don't need help. And we know, at least on paper, now nobody will admit this, but it's our jobs now, you and I, to say, look, on paper, this is the softer end of our schedule, especially since Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay. And you got Chicago twice, I believe, too, coming up. So
Chicago twice, Green Bay twice, and Thanksgiving Day against the Minnesota Vikings. Really quick about the Chicago Bears. Mitchell Trubisky, the rookie quarterback, is starting now. They're up to 3 and 4. Can they survive the way they're playing? With just a run-oriented offense, play defense, and don't throw the ball?
no, no, that's simple. There's no way. I mean, yesterday was just crazy. It's like it's craziness of the NFL. That was as crazy as the Lions Saints game that we did, or that I was watching and working on. It's great. You can't win the game throwing. I just asked our research team, give me the last team that won a game throwing the ball 7 times. And they only had, I think, 140 yards of total offense. 3 first downs. Are you kidding me? And you win the game? That's insanity.
Well, speaking of insanity, we're moving along now. The first game back is against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. Then, as I just mentioned, game 2 of this restart is against the Green Bay Packers on Monday night in Lambeau. How important are these next 2 games?
Well, they're going to get tested because Pittsburgh, ever since Ben decided not to retire, then unretire, retire, then unretire, and you got Le'Veon Bell rolling like he's rolling, that's going to be a great test for the Lions. That'd be a great win if they can get Pittsburgh and get them on a nice roll against the Packers the following Monday.
Okay, Chris, and we'll see how they did when we come back next week for another edition of 3 and Out.